How to get the Visual Studio installation path in a batch file. Normally, the path is something like C:\program files, x86, /Microsoft Visual Studio 10.0 /VC/. From Visual Studio, one can use $vstaldir to get this path. I know one can use environment variable %vs 100 comtools% in a batch file. To get a similar path, which is C:\program files /Microsoft Visual Studio 10.0 common 7 /tools /. The solution should not dependent on VS's version.
Use vSphere utility, which is a part of VS Bundle, officially, but can also be used a part of MSVC. Here you may find more details. You could also use the registry to find the path to the Visual Studio install directory. You would have to add extra logic to handle different versions of VS that might be installed e.g 10.0 or 11.0.
Way late to this question, but I found a simpler way to get the MSVC directory. The trick is to use %versus 100 comtools% variable or the version of your Visual Studio. Here 100 is 10.0, which is guaranteed to exist even without calling the ./vc/vcarsol.bat batch file. %vsinstalled or %variable falls to this as it's empty until vcarsol.bat is called, but we can't call the file if we don't know the full path. The %versus 100 comtools% on the other hand exists and returns something like. Then a simply cutoff of the last characters seems good.
It looks like vstaldir is an environment variable that is independent upon the version of Visual Studio. That may be used in a batch file.
For the small minority just using Microsoft's free command line compiler, which still is kinda under the umbrella of things called Visual Studio, I leave this note. I only installed Visual Studio build tools, and I didn't find a solution here that worked. vsware.exe didn't believe anything was installed. No particular environment variables were magically set, the tools can be installed in places other than C column, etc. So I was left still wanting a batch file that would automatically locate the compilers /linkers/ etc. What did seem to work was my queries. If your batch file is being run by a shell that can do my queries, that is. I'm using TCC for my shell, formerly known as for_nt, and the built-in command was as simple as this correctly located the install path even in non-default locations. No idea how far back in legacy land this might work. PowerShell can certainly do it, but I'm too unfamiliar to quote an equivalent example.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.